And welcome back. This is St. Raz. Welcome back to Cajun Coding and to Codingbat. We are in the Array1 series of exercises here. And starting off with make ends. Given an array of ints, return a new array length 2 containing the first and last elements from the original array. The original array will be length 1 or more. Presumably, if it is only length 1, the first and last elements would be the same, but that isn't a logical problem. That would be we certainly can return the first and last elements even if they happen to be the same one. This one's pretty easy. Let me see. First, we're going to go ahead and declare our array, and we'll call this just answer is fine. Oops. It's going to have 2 elements, and we're going to populate it thusly. Answer 0. We're going to assign the value the first in our array they passed in. That's nums is the name of the array, so nums. And the second one, index 1, is going to be the last element, which would be nums length minus 1. And we return our new array like so. And has 23. Given an int array length 2, return true if it contains a 2 or a 3. Now given an array length 2, so we know it's going to be 2 elements in the array. We can actually return this as just one line. Return, let me see, oops, nums is the name of the array. This is going to be kind of verbose, but that's okay. If it contains a 2 or 3, I think there's probably still fewer characters in the solution than if we had set up like a for loop or something like that, but it's not hard. No 2, 3. Given an int array length 2, return true if it does not contain a 2 or 3. Now, it's kind of interesting. If we take this, this is functionally the exact same problem, but it's in reverse. And the question, the impulse, that someone might have is, what if they do, I'm not sure that 100% this is going to run. Let's see if this runs. How about that? If we remove this, every single test fails. And when you're returning a Boolean, if every single test fails, that's almost as good as every test passing, because you just reverse the value of your Boolean and everything works. And what we're doing here is just that. Oops. There we go. Now if you didn't have this, basically we can distribute that inversion of the values through this. So we take all these equals and turn them into not equals. Now if you do that, think about it, we would also have to change all these ors into ands. And that works. So okay, make last, given an int array, return a new array with double the length where its last element is the same as the original array and all the other elements are 0. The original array will be length 1 or more. Note, by default, the new int array contains all zeros. Okay, so let me see. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare an array. So it's going to be, and it's an array of integers. So int, use the brackets there. So it's going to be our answer equals new for a new array of integers. And what do we put in here? Well, we're getting an array of ints named of nums. So nums length times 2, and that will be twice the length of the original array that we received. And we're going to take answer, what index? The index would be answer length minus 1. That'll give us the very last index, and we're going to use the assignment operator to put in that the value that was the last element of the original array. Original array length, the original array name of nums, and the last element would be nums length minus 1, and then we return our answer. And now see, what we're doing here is at this point we are creating the array twice the length of the previous array. Now we're not populating any values, but by default a new array of integers contains all zeros. So we've got everything we need, except we haven't populated the very last value, which is what we do in the next line here. And let me see, it says it will have at least 1, so we don't have to worry about an edge case of array length 0. And the next one, double 2, 3, given an array, return true if the array contains 2 twice or 3 twice. The array will be length 0, 1, or 2, so we may have length 0. Seems like it might. There's a couple ways to go about it, I believe. Let's go ahead and use some count 2 and int count 3. Now keep track of our counts there. We could use a for loop. And we're not sure how long the array is going to be, so we're going to have to use nums length so we can adjust to whatever the length of it is. Okay, and what we're doing here You see we have a for loop that will iterate through the array we're given, which is nums, an array of integers. And we have two if statements here. If nums in the current iteration of the array address, so if nums I equals 2, we're going to increment our count 2 counter. If nums I equals 3, we increment our count 3 counter. And then the last line of code in the function here, we return the truth value of the statement count 2 equals 2 or count 3 equals, and it should be 2. 2 twice or 3 twice. Typo there. Probably is not a typo, or probably my brain saying put a 3 because I just typed 3. Not exactly a typo. See, that does work. Now we do have some edge cases here. Contains 0. You'll notice in our for loop, I is less than num's length. If num's length is 0, then what happens is, I is 0, so it sees this doesn't assess as true. So the for loop in this case doesn't actually run. It just kicks down to the bottom of the loop and we do our comparisons. So and another exercise, fix 2-3. Given an int array length 3, if there is a 2 in the array immediately followed by a 3, set the 3 element to 0 and return the changed array. So we know our int array is going to be length 3. Okay, so I don't think we're going to need a variable to hold anything here, because we're just immediately going to make that change. When you check those values, make the change in the array itself. We're returning the same array that we received. It is the same object in memory, even though we may make a change to it. That is different from creating a second array and returning that array. So we're all going to be returning the same array. We can use a short little for loop. We could repeat ourselves a little bit with this. It's only an array of 3. We use for loops a lot. We'll go ahead and do this without the for loop, I think. So if nums 0, which is the first spot, if nums 0 equals 2 and the very next one, nums 1 equals 3, then nums 1, which we just checked, we're going to set to 0. And another if, this is not an else, this is another if. We have no else statement. So if nums 1 equals 2 and nums 2 equals 3, oops, wrong bracket, or brace rather, wrong brace, nums 2 we are going to set to 0, and then we return nums. And see, that works. Figure we are doing a lot of for loops. This is a pretty simple statement, but hey, why not do it twice, and we'll get to see it all the more. The repetition is what helps. And on to the next one, start 1. Start with 2 integer arrays, A and B, of any length. Return how many of the arrays have 1 as their first element. So we're going to get 2 arrays, and we need to count how many of them start with 1. And note, they say they're of any length, and here in one of their examples we have an array of length 0. So we can do int count and set it to 0 if a length greater than 0 and a 0 equals 1. Increment count. And this is essentially going to be almost the same. So we can cut and paste, except we're looking at B now. Doesn't hurt to type this stuff all out the long way when you're practicing to kind of get the hang of it. That repetition does help. And return count. Simple as that. And bigger 2. Start with 2 integer arrays, A and B, each length 2. Consider the sum of the values in each array. Return the array which has the largest sum. In the event of a tie, return A. Okay, so it's just 2 arrays, length 2. There's a couple ways we go about doing this. I could try to golf it in one huge, ridiculously convoluted statement, but if we want to keep it just simple, so we do int. Let me see, sum1, and we're going to start that at 0. Int sum2, initialize to 0. And we could have just initialized them pretty early, but we're going to go ahead and assign to sum1. Let me see, A 0 plus A 1 sum2 equals B 0 plus B 1. If sum2 is greater than sum1, return B, else return A. Okay. Well, here's the question: does it matter? You know, whether we're doing whether we do sum2, sum1 here. Interesting if we reverse these two orders. Sum2 has to be bigger to return B. Bigger, not equal, because of the sign here. If it turns out that they're exactly equal, it's going to return A, which is exactly what they stated. In the event of a tie, return A. It's that simple. And we could have initialized these with the sums here. It would have been a little bit shorter. Okay, array1 make middle. Given an array of integers of even length, return new array length 2 containing the middle 2 elements from the original array. The original array will be length 2 or more. We've done essentially this with strings before, so now we're just going to do it with an array of integers. So and we are returning a new array, so let's go ahead and make our array int answer equals int, oops, it would be new int 2 elements, and int answer 0, we're going to assign nums length. It's going to be divided by 2, so let's say we have 4. If we divide it by 2, that would be 2. That would be this one. So it's going to be divided by 2 minus 1. And then answer 1 equals nums length divided by 2. just 2, not the -1. And then we return answer like that. Okay, +2. Given 2 integer arrays, each length 2. Return a new array length 4 containing all their elements. So what we're going to do is we're just going to basically add, see, doing 2 integer arrays. That's one array, that's another array. Now these are inside the parentheses here. This is not one array consisting of 2 arrays. They are passing us 2 arrays. You can see this in the code here because this is an integer array. This is an integer array. If they were passing in an array of 2 arrays, our input here would just be one array. And actually the data type would be array. So I'm not sure if they would have the inner data type of the inner arrays elements, but in any case. So here we go. Let's see, containing all their elements. So we're going to go ahead and we know we're going to have an array of 4 elements and they're going to be integers. So integer answer equals new int, and it's going to be 4. And it might be just easiest to do these as assignments. We could actually do this as a for loop within a for loop, but with larger data sets, you want to avoid putting a for loop inside a for loop because the requirements on data and on processing power and memory can get a little ridiculous sometimes. And for a data set as small as this, it's really probably going to be fewer keystrokes just to assign everything manually. So all we would have to do is answer 0 equals a 0. And then just run through these assignments here, change what we need. And this will be 1. And then return an answer. I think using the for loop within the for loop would be really over-engineering it. That would be the coding equivalent of a Rube Goldberg device. Rube Goldberg, look that up. If you're not familiar with that name, it's some very entertaining cartoons out there, and you'll get what I'm saying if you see that. Okay, swap ends. Given an array of integers, swap the first and last elements in the array. Return the modified array. The array length will be at least 1. At least 1. Okay, I think this is pretty easy. Now, we are going to need a placeholder real quick. And let me see. And rather than initialize it as 0, let's go ahead and grab that placeholder. We're going to go ahead and grab that 0 indexed value and put it in there. Then we're going to nums, put the new value in the 0, the value in the last place, which would be nums. Since we don't know how long it is, nums length -1. So now the last one is first, and the last one is first now. Now we're going to make, excuse me, the first one is what was the last one. And now we're going to make the last one nums length minus 1, that value that we saved in our temp variable. And we're returning the same array. We modified it, but it is the same object that we're sending back. Comme ça. Okay. And we've got another one. We're going to grab a chunk out of the middle of this one. Given an array of ints of odd length, return a new array length 3 containing the elements from the middle of the array. The array length will be at least 3. This is almost the same as the other one we got, but we're going to go work through it here. Practice makes perfect, right? So return a new array. So we're going to declare a new array. So int answer equals new int. We know it's going to be length 3. We don't know how long an array we're going to be dealing with, but we're going to return one length 3, so we know that. So, and then we're going to assign the values. Answer index 0 equals nums length. And I think it's divided by 2. Let's say we have 3 of them. 3 divided by 2 is 1, which would put us in that middle, but we don't want the middle, we want the one before that. So it's actually, I said, well, let's say 3 divided by 2 is 1, which would put us right there. So yeah, so it's actually going to be minus 1 here, and then we'll go ahead and assign the other 2. Index 1 and index 2. This one is going to be like that, and this one's going to be plus 1. Don't forget our semicolons. Let's see if I messed this up somewhere. No, I didn't. I got it right. Sometimes you have to step through this stuff carefully to make sure you're not off by 1 or 2 or whatever. Alright, and we've got MaxTriple. Given an array of ints of odd length, look at the first, last, and middle values in the array and return the largest. The array length will be at least 1. So the array length is going to be at least 1. So okay, so we could do an int. Okay, now this says return the largest, and you want to look at this. It's the value that we're returning. You need to read these problems carefully, because a lot of times I'll write some code and the code is perfect for what I want it to return, but the tests don't pass because I'm doing what I thought the exercise instructed, not what it was actually instructing. And sometimes you can get pretty deep into debugging and realize that you're answering the wrong question. So this is returning the value. So because of that, we don't have to worry about where the value came from, and that's going to be significant in a lot of exercises. So, but if we do int and we do we'll just do answer, and we're going to initialize answer to let's check the front and the back first. And we could use our old friend, the math object, mathMax. And we're going to pass into max the values of nums, the first spot, and nums, the last spot. Now in answer, we have the bigger of those two, and now we're going to check that. We're going to make answer the bigger of what we already have for it, and the middle value, which would be nums length. Now if we have three values, that would be 0, 1, 2, 3 divided by 2 is 1, so that would be the middle. So it's just fine, just like that. Then we return answer, just like that. We actually, I think we could have just done this. Yeah, that works too. So, not quite as succinct as it could have been the first time through. But I kind of want to get you guys used to seeing how things are done. If I wanted to look perfect every time, I would practice these 4 or 5 times through and then record, or I'd edit the heck out of everything to make myself look smarter. But maybe it's more encouraging to folks to see if somebody as dumb as me can get it right. So in any case, I think we'll do one more here. Front piece. Where are we here? Array1. And we've got 4 more. Should we go a little longer or just grab these on the next one? I think we'll grab it on the next one. But go ahead and check out front piece. Try to run that. Try to get it done. See if you can get it finished up. And check out the video next time to see if I got to the same answer in a different way. Or of course, if you get stuck, don't be discouraged. Don't get hung up. Look at the video and keep working on it. You'll get through it. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I will see you next time.